Okay, so we need innovation, and we need it fast. Now, I've had discussions on whether regulation or economic benefits are going to increase innovation faster, increase technology. I tend to think if you tell people that you can't put in another wastewater treatment plant until you figure out a way to get to zero, that is going to encourage technology. Other people are saying, well, yeah, but if there's a value in it based on trading, then it's going to encourage it more. I think the regulation encourages the technology more so. By the way, just little notes. Like the oil crisis, we have a phosphorus crisis. Phosphorus is a very limited mineral. And except for what's coming out of Florida, everything else is coming out of Turkey and Saudi Arabia and Morocco, I believe. So again, yes?
Yeah, I was at this conference on renewable fuels, and they were talking about if you were going to use algae as the oil source, that there's not enough phosphorus to provide the algae to produce which I found astounding. That came out of California.
I say, bring them to the Susquehanna. We got the phosphorus.
Well, the research came out of California, but they were talking about they had to buy the phosphorus from on the other side of the planet in order to raise algae
yes.
to produce a fuel.
But wastewater treatment plants pass 10% of the mined phosphorus right through the wastewater treatment plant. Luckily in York, we have one of the best wastewater treatment plants in the state, in New York City. And they've just gotten a new technology in that removes the phosphorus and is creating fertilizer directly out of our own waste stream. And the plant is making money off of that.
Is this what Bobby can?
Yeah, yeah. And there's another one down in Suffolk, Virginia. There are only 4 plants in the world that are doing this right now. First one was in Vancouver, second one I think Portland, then they did one down in Virginia, and then York, Pennsylvania is the 4th plant in the world to do that. Alternatives to trading. I don't think you need trading necessarily. I think that if you threaten the wastewater treatment plants enough and tell them, and this is what is happening right now. I don't want to get into the complications of the TMDL, the new rule that's coming down, but in the rule they have this thing called a backstop, which says if you guys don't fix it up and come up with a plan yourself, we're going to come down with some almost untenable rules. We're going to give you limits that are so low that you're not even going to be able to do it. And the idea is it's kind of like a behind-the-back blackmailing kind of thing, saying, we know we don't want to fix the wastewater treatment plant. This is the Fed saying this. We don't want you to fix the wastewater treatment plants, but because we don't have the regulatory tools, we're going to threaten your wastewater treatment plants, so you'll come up with a scheme to fix your agriculture. That scheme has something to do with trading. I think you could do the exact same thing without trading and just say, hey, all you wastewater treatment plants, you're not going to do anything until this ag gets fixed up. Can we put a small fee? Because either way, you're taxing urban and suburban people to fix rural problems. Now, please remember at the beginning of this, my compassion for the small farmers. You know, I mean, we are putting them in a horrible situation, and the taxpayers should be helping them. Definitely. We pay less for food than we should be. And I see nothing wrong with helping the farmers fix their problems. I do see something wrong with helping the farmers fix their problems so we can have unlimited growth over here that we're going to have to deal with again in 10 to 20 years. And then enforcement and investment. The Clean Water Act is set up so that we're providing funding at the same time we're ratcheting down. That's the way this whole thing was supposed to work, and that's why all of our streams, all of our discharges to streams were supposed to be gone by 1983, and all of our rivers and lakes were supposed to be fishable, swimmable, and drinkable by 1985. That's what's in the Clean Water Act. But we didn't do that. Now you got a bunch of people whining. Is that the end? That's the end of me. All right. If you need to get in touch with me, there's my email and website. And if there's anything I haven't covered, I'd be happy to take any questions or talk about any other subject that I might have missed. Yes, Steve.
Are the new oyster beds and oyster development, is that one of our best hopes for a better, cleaner bay?
Certainly returning God's natural filtration systems to the waterways by replacing the freshwater mussels that have been lost due to the eels being kept out of the Susquehanna. Sorry, another long story, but American eels are the host for the mussel species that used to filter the Susquehanna River. That mussel species is almost gone now, and it is, in my opinion, definitely because the hydroelectric dams block the natural migration of the eels back and forth. Yes, I think that's an important thing to invest in, and the cheapest way to fix the Chesapeake Bay and the Susquehanna River is to go back and plant trees along every stream that we strip those trees out of. Trees shade a stream and create a normal pollution removal system that can remove like 50 or 60% of these nutrients that they're now saying we're going to have to spend money in all these other different ways to get rid of these nutrients. When you denude a stream, you allow 100% of the sunlight to come in, the stream temperature goes up 20, 30 degrees, the little critters can't eat the algae anymore, the algae grows like crazy, it dies, and all those nutrients stay in the system. Trees, cheapest way to fix things, and definitely returning the natural shellfish is key. Yes?
I saw a letter from you and another waterkeeper questioning the nutrient trading, and I'm wondering what your take on the reason that other environmental advocates in the Chesapeake Bay are so gung-ho about the nutrient trading. Is because they think that's all they can get, or they don't understand it, or what?
I would go with I'll go with both. Only, and I'm not trying to put them down, but only because I went into the heart of those organizations, gave the presentation with all my questions, and the experts in nutrient trading and the people that were in favor of that bill could not answer any of my questions. So but the problem is, when you buy into legislation at the very beginning, it's very tough to step off. So for instance, and she's discussing the Cardin bill, Senate Bill 1816, I would request that you call Congressman Platts and you call Senator Specter, and if possible you call Harry Reid, call Senator Reid from Nevada, because he's the one that's in charge of bundling all these bills together. Call them up and tell them that you don't, if you believe this, I don't ever ask anybody to say something they don't believe, but if you believe that this is a complicated system and they haven't done due diligence, which is what I think, call them up and say, don't package Senate Bill 1816, the Chesapeake bill, in with the other water bills that you guys are going to try and pass by the end of the year. Yeah, I think it's a case where people bought into it and supported it at the very beginning, because the only thing I disagreed with at the beginning was the nutrient trading. I kept quiet for a year, and I feel bad about it now. But I said, all right, you guys really want this? You know, I can maybe work with nutrient trading. But afterwards, Inhofe, the global warming disbeliever, put amendments on the bill. Senators that protected agriculture from any federal enforcement. Senator Specter put in amendments to the bill that also removed our ability to reduce agricultural pollution through enforcement or regulation. You know, after you've got a global warming disbeliever from Oklahoma that involved in the bill, you got to start questioning it.
We got good psychos down there. Come on.
Well, now they're flowing over. They're overflowing into our bay. Come on, keep them down there.
What's really sad is Oklahoma has a similar battle with Arkansas, where the poultry waste is coming into our state. We've been battling with Arkansas for 30 years. So it's very sad that MHOP, who is from that area, you know, must up a bill that's trying to solve a similar problem.
Yeah, and a lot of this comes down to the Farm Bureau. The Farm Bureau is one of the biggest lobbying, probably the second biggest lobbying organizations next to the Chamber of Commerce, I would think, or definitely in running. They claim to have 5 million members.
There's 1.8 million farmers in the U.S. and they claim to represent agriculture, but they have 5 million members.
Right, because everybody that buys insurance through farmers, or actually, is it called just Farmers Insurance, or is it the Farm Bureau Insurance? I don't know. They've got so many scams going on. Beware the Farm Bureau. They've been around for a long time, and you saw the number of farmers that we've lost. Obviously, if they do represent farmers, they're doing a poor job of representing farmers.
It is, it's true. You know, that's
They are representing corporate industries. I have watched their representatives lie to my members of Congress. Watch them lie outright. And they call that lobbying. But, you know, when I lobby, I go in and explain, you know, that is one of my jobs. I go down to DC 3-4 times a year and try to get my science or my points across. And I don't mind if people disagree with me, but when they come in and lie, and then you spend a half an hour trying to explain to a congressional staffer that what they say is nowhere in the bill, and instead of me being able to share the science and my concerns, I'm counteracting lies from a very powerful organization. Yeah, if you can't tell, I have no use for the Farm Bureau and vice versa. They have no use for me either.
Welcome to American politics.
Yeah, but like Eugene says, though, I think we need to keep them in dialogue, even though we don't believe a lot of what they say. I mean, you know, willing to...
I want to request something. The letter you were encouraging us to consider sending to, would you put that information out to us by email?
Yes, I can
so
do
that.
that.
We have what the concerns are.
Well, and you can also, the concerns are outlined in the op-ed that was published in the Baltimore Sun, and there are copies of this over on the table.
Okay, good.
over there.
On your table?
Yeah.
Yeah, right over there.
Yeah. Thank you so much for bringing that up. Anything else?
That's it.
Well, thank you so much for being here. Thank you, Maria. And all your minions, all your helpers. Yeah, please just keep talking to people. That is the most powerful tool we have right now. We can do a lot with science, but science doesn't change policy. I can guarantee you that. It's all about the votes for these people.
Science is for your neighbors. They got truckloads of science. If you want something changed, if they say bring 1 million balloons to the Capitol, or 1 million people to the Capitol, tell them you want your kid to have a pink balloon on Wednesday, they'll have a pink balloon on Wednesday. And that's about the size of it, it really is.